families. So you might have looked at week 3's checklist and you might see that there is this Animal Adaptations project. Mr. Chambers, you just gave us a project. We had to set up all those dominoes. Everything was crashing. Why another project? Well, because we as Paideia scholars learn best when we have a large end in mind goal. And this project ties nicely into the book that we've been reading or listening to Mr. Chambers read, One Day in the Desert by Jean Craighead George. This is all about animals that live in the desert, that don't have air conditioning, but thrive here. They have certain adaptations that make them suitable for living in the Sonoran Desert that we call home. And so thinking about our neighbors, the animals who live here in the desert, whether we see them all the time or we barely knew they existed, we want to look at how animals, either in Arizona or across the world, have adapted to living in the desert climate. And remember, deserts are very dry. It's not the heat, it's how dry we are. It's how little rain falls on us, less than 10 inches a year. Antarctica is a desert because of how little rain it gets. But thinking of deserts and how animals have adapted to live there. How do they keep cool if they happen to be in one of the hotter deserts? How do they stay hydrated and don't shrivel up? How do they find water? What adaptations do they make to their life? There are plenty of examples of different animals and their adaptations throughout the book that we've been reading. And even though we might get frustrated with some of the questions, we are trying our best and we're learning as we go about those different adaptations. Now I want to take it a step forward because over the next 2 weeks, we'll be finishing this up. We've got 2 chapters this week, 2 chapters next week, and I want to make sure that we fully understand and apply our knowledge from this book by conducting our own research. So, our end in mind for this Animal Adaptations project is, as a scholar, I will conduct research on a desert animal, any animal that lives in any desert. Just one. I don't need 5 different paragraphs about 5 different animals. I want one that I want to be an expert on. Okay? And there's a full list of animals you can choose from provided in Google Classroom, so you can pick whatever animal you want to really research and learn about, okay? But with my research, I will be able to produce a complete research project with a written, a visual, and a presentation component. So 3 things I'm graded on in my overall project: my writing, my visual aid, and my presentation. So, what this looks like. In your written, this is the one where there's the least amount of leeway. In your written, you will write in your own words. Don't just copy and paste what you find on Wikipedia. In your own words. I want to see your writing. I want you to write a 3-paragraph essay about your animal of your choosing. And there will be a follow-up video telling you what each paragraph is about and giving us pointers on how to write those paragraphs. So stay tuned for those. Your visual component. Maybe you are a really good artist and you really want to draw a picture of the scorpion that you are studying. Draw that picture. Maybe we're not confident in our art abilities, but we have excellent skills where we can search the internet and find plenty of images about these particular animals. And I can compile them maybe in a slideshow presentation or in a collage of some sorts. I want a visual representation to show me who this creature you're talking about is. Okay? And lastly, you are going to present. And this year, we have a special gift to us. Because we are in online learning, there is a way where, for those shy and timid scholars who do not feel comfortable standing in front of a class, where you can provide an asynchronous presentation of your learning. Just like Mr. Chambers is making an asynchronous presentation about what this project is. It's a pre-recorded video that you can watch at a later time. Where some of us might feel more comfortable, and during the week of September 14th through the 18th, we will dedicate time throughout the day for scholars to present over Zoom what they have learned about their animal. Okay? So throughout this project, we'll have 5 checkpoints, 5 assignments within this one big assignment to make sure that we're moving and progressing along as we should. This is to help us put first things first. So the first checkpoint is coming up this Wednesday. I know it's only 2 days since you see this video till the first checkpoint. What do I do for this first checkpoint on Wednesday? Well, simply, I want you to write Mr. Chambers a short little paragraph about what animal you want to pick and why you want to pick that. Okay? So, 2 days to pick your animal. And it is okay if multiple scholars have the same animal. This is our first project of the year. I want it to be something that you're passionate about. If I have multiple friends who really like foxes and I hear multiple reports about foxes, I'm happy. I'm happy because you did the research on your own and came up with this presentation and this visual aid and this writing that is completely you. Okay? So, animal selection and a short reason why is due by Wednesday. By this Friday, I want you to come up with your first rough draft. So that's 3 paragraphs. Now, when I say rough, I don't mean that, hey, I wrote 3 sentences, because that's not paragraphs. That's not showing me your research. So between the time you select your animal, you're going to do some research. Then you're going to write a rough draft. It's okay if your rough draft's 1 or 2 paragraphs and just not that 3rd paragraph. But I want you to take some time throughout this week, knowing that you get this project on Monday, you take some time to select your animal, research it, and work towards this, okay? So your rough draft is due by Friday the 4th. That gives Mr. Chambers a 3-day weekend where I can check all of the rough drafts that have come in. I can provide feedback so that you can revise and edit. I'm doing this on my 3-day weekend because I want you to succeed. But you have to meet me halfway and get your rough draft in by this Friday, okay? After the 3-day weekend, by next Wednesday, so use this time if you're not traveling too far away to work on complying with your visual aid. Your visual aid will be due on Wednesday, September 9th. And you can submit that via Class Dojo or Google Classroom. Either one will work, okay? Your 4th checkpoint is by next Friday, September 11th. I want your final draft. So after this 3-day weekend, I'm going to revise and edit your rough draft. That gives you 4 days to look over the revisions, take into consideration how can I make this better to really polish up and give me your best scholarly work. The last and final checkpoint is your final presentation, whether it's in a video like this or whether you're giving it live in class during our Zoom meeting. That's going to happen sometime in the week of September 14th through the 18th. Now, I understand that in this 3-week time span, we will have map testing. This does not change when these due dates are. If I change any assignments, it will be the smaller assignments that we move out. I want to keep us to this deadline and these checkpoints, so write these down. These are the important dates for this project, okay? So this project and us applying our logic is worth about half of what the 8 chapters of this book were. So each chapter was 20 points times 8, 160 points. Well, this project's 80 points. So we really want to put in quite a bit of effort. There will be rubrics provided so that we can check our work and check, am I doing my best as we're working on this, okay? The final presentation, the final grades that I'm going to give for this will be by September 18th. That aligns roughly with where your progress reports are. So we will have to focus. These grades may not be reflected on our progress reports, but they will be reflected on our quarter grade. So put in your best effort over the next 3 weeks to get this done. So you're 10 minutes in this video, and you as a parent, you're thinking, Mr. Chambers, what are you doing? Where do I begin? How do I help my scholar at home with this project? Well, I'm glad that you asked. So the first step, step 1, what you need to do today or tomorrow by Wednesday at the latest is select your animal. There's a whole list of animals that I have pre-selected that I know live in the desert and we can find good resources on, okay? Pick your animal, okay? Follow that list, pick one that interests you as the scholar, okay? Number 2, you're going to conduct research. Now I have one link here, and I will give you a follow-up video and a list of links where you can go to. But for example, if you go to Nat Geo on your web browser and just scroll around, maybe you want to study a desert tortoise, and it will give you 3 or 4 paragraphs of information about the desert tortoise. That's one place I can look for research. There's other websites, Desert Animals, Active Wild, and just doing a cursory glance on YouTube or Google or Wikipedia can provide me with some background information. The main thing I want to do with my research is I do not want to copy and paste. My writing is in my own words, okay? So there will be a further breakdown for step 3 when you're writing your rough draft of what each paragraph should look like, kind of a rough outline of how to piece out your 3 paragraphs with a follow-up video. We haven't done a whole lot of writing yet. Yes, you write every day for your morning message, but that's not formal writing. We as scholars want to do our best formal writing for this, about this informational text, much like we saw here in this almost non-fictional book, One Day in the Desert. We want to give information. So that's going to be part of it in our own words, writing out the 3 paragraphs. So I will help you in that process. You will have to read, you will have to watch another video, no, but it will help you to succeed in this project, okay? Step 4, your visual aid. I know I've got some fantastic artists who the first second, they're like, I'm gonna draw this. And that's perfectly okay. If I was in Mr. Chambers' class, that's where I'd start. I'd start with the drawing and leave the writing for later. We wanna put first things first. The writing is most important for this first week. The drawing or the visual aid, that can come later, okay? So there will be a follow-up video on this to give you ideas for whether you want to draw or create a digital display of pictures in some way. So I will help you with that. Please be patient. That video should be out this week, but don't hound me on it. I've got other things to do, catch up on grading and so forth. But I will help you in this, okay? Step 5. After you've got your visual aid in, you've received back your revisions and edits from Mr. Chambers, you need to make a final draft and polish it. For your final draft, you can either type it up in the computer in a Google Docs, or if you feel comfortable, more comfortable with it, in your best handwriting, not Mr. Chambers' handwriting that is hard for us to read in these presentations, and I know, I do apologize. In your best handwriting, I want you to write it down on a piece of paper and submit it via Class Dojo or Google Classroom. Handwritten or type will work, but it has to be your best handwriting. This is your final draft, okay? Number 6, you're going to present. I will give more details. There will be another follow-up video on how to prepare an asynchronous or how to prepare a synchronous teaching. What do I do when I'm the host of Zoom? How do I control this? How do I get my message across? So I will give more information on that. And lastly, I know this is a big, daunting task for you. I want you to have fun. I want you to look at the animals, pick the animal that interests you the most, really dive into learning about what adaptations they've made to thrive and live in the desert, much like we saw in One Day in the Desert. So with that, I will leave you to start your animal selection. Follow the list down in Google Classroom, and I will meet up with you real soon with some follow-up videos to help us progress along in this big project, okay? So, you've got this. You're gonna have a great time. Stay awesome, and I'll talk to you real soon.